Episode 88, Confidence in Motherhood with Laura Dry.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and certified through the Life Coach School. Together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with the coach? Here we go.
What do you believe is the most powerful animal in Africa? If you said the lion, you would be right. They are top predators in the food chain and called the king of the jungle for a reason. Yet at a zoo in Argentina, there are lions that humans can freely mingle with. How is this possible? The answer is one that you will have to learn by listening to the podcast today, but it comes down to the fact that the lions do not realize who they are and the power they possess. Coach Laura Dry knows that all too often moms forget the power they have within themselves, and they then have lack of confidence in how they show up in that role. But the truth is, every mother has immense power within, and their children need them to realize that so they can be a powerful force in the world. Confidence breeds confidence and is a win-win for everyone. Come listen as Laura shares the most common pitfalls in thinking that mothers seem to get trapped in that keep them playing small and not the confident lionesses they were born to be.
Today, my friends, we are lucky enough to have Coach Laura Dry with us on the podcast. And Laura, it's so nice to have you here today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Heather. It's so fun to be here. This is so exciting.
We were chatting before I hit record and we could have just kept chatting.
Kept going.
Sometimes I have to be like, oh, wait, pause. Let's hit record so that we don't miss any of the good stuff. So Laura, before we get going, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure.
To the space, all that.
So my name's Laura Dry. I actually live in Calgary, Canada, and I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids, 3 girls and a boy. My oldest is 14. My youngest is 7. And I really got into coaching at the worst time, but the best time in my life, because I was just at this space where I had everything that I'd ever wanted. Like I had the house and I was married to an amazing man and I had my kids, and it was like, everything that I ever wanted, I'd achieved. Mm-hmm. And I was miserable. Like I was a miserable mom, and I had a lot of anxiety to go along with that. And I found coaching just by chance. And this whole world that I didn't know existed became aware, I became aware of it. And it was just a really great blessing to me, because it was this turning point where I realized that the world wasn't making me miserable. I was blaming the world and lots of other things for my misery. And I realized that I could actually take control of that, and that I had agency over that, and that I didn't need to be at the effect of my anxiety or the world anymore, that I had so much more control than I thought was possible. And that's something that I craved. I craved control. And the more I craved that, the less, or the more out of control I felt. Yeah. And so it was so amazing for me just to see the shift in me. Nothing needed to change but me and the way that I was thinking about things and my mindset. And as a result, all of that spilled into all of my relationships. So my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my kids, everything got better. In fact, my family started to notice, what's going on with mom? This is weird. This is different, right? It was like this. It was a strange, oh, okay, we have to get used to this new mom that's, not so grumpy all the time and not yelling at us so much. And it was just an amazing shift for me that happened gradually over time. This was not an overnight change, but coaching has been such a blessing in my life. And so much of a blessing that I really felt led, and this desire to share what I had learned with other moms and to let them know that confidence was available to them, because that's not something that I really actually believed was available to me until I kind of did my own work and kind of was led on my own confidence journey.
I think it's interesting. You said you're talking about confidence, like your story, I related to your story so much. But for me, I would have felt like patience was the thing that I felt was lacking for me. Like I thought that patience wasn't available for me. Like that was something that just couldn't be mine. And so I think for all of us, there is something that we feel that's not there, that we feel like it's unattainable for us. And I probably at the root of a lot of it is confidence. For me, I just recognized it as a lack of patience, but probably that lack of patience was because of something that was connected to confidence in some way. But, and the other thing that I love is that you said, you know, your whole world kind of shifted, and yet certainly nothing in your world shifted. It was you, and
nothing changed. I didn't go get a new family. I didn't get better kids. I didn't get a different husband who did all the things magically that I wanted him to do. Right. It was like, I just changed.
Yeah. And you said it didn't happen overnight, but for me, like I remember feeling when I started making some shifts too, that there was things that happened overnight for me. There was things that I felt magically changed just because of a quick shift in perspective. Or so yes, the change is gradual, but I felt like there were some things that happened pretty darn quick as well.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that's hard for us sometimes to measure. And I don't know that I really started to notice as much until my family started to notice. Do you know what I mean? Like it started to spill out, and it was like, yeah, I'm thinking differently about it. I am feeling differently, but it's when they started to notice that I was like, oh, right. Like this is really shifting and changing. And that was so fun. It was so fun to see.
It is fun. It's not that we need it, but it is fun to kind of get an external validation sometimes of, oh, this actually, like people, this is working. And that's part of the thing of coaching, is that you learn that you don't need that outside validation, but sometimes it is nice to also see that it's making, like, the changes in their lives is a validation in some way too. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that as women and moms, I definitely see like we are our worst enemies sometimes. And we don't see, like, we're not looking for the ways that we're doing things well. And we're focusing on the things that we're not doing well. And so really that is something learned that we really have to focus on and intentionally choose to notice the ways that we are improving and the ways that things are shifting and getting better. And for me, that has been especially one of the hardest things that I have had to learn and do and I'm still working on, is realizing, hey, I am amazing. I am doing so well and I am making progress, because the brain does want to focus on the negative.
I'm sorry, I have to give a little chuckle because I would have, when you said progress, the only thing, I love it because I know that people, the first time I heard somebody say progress, I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to say progress. Because like we here say progress. And then the second time it was somebody else I heard say it, I was like, I wonder if she's from Canada too. And so Canadians say,
hey
progress.
guys,
I'm learning.
Yes. Progress, it's the same word.
Same word. But
I love it.
I think it's fantastic. So it's like there's a handful of coaches that I know that live in Canada, and it's so fun because those things don't change. It's always progress. So, but
yeah, right.
Okay. So as you're talking, that was a total side note, but I just had to give a little, anyway, I love finding little connections there, but you were talking about all those things that kind of help, and the things that we tend to look for, the things that we're doing wrong and the things that we're not doing right, which all connects back to confidence. Right. And so I'm curious for you, what confidence is. Like, how do you define that?
Yeah. So I think this is a really great place to start, just because for so many, and me included on my confidence journey, I think we have this kind of misrepresentation in our brains of what confidence actually is. One of the biggest things that I used to get caught up in is the comparison trap. Like I would compare myself to other moms, other women, other people around me. And that's so easy to do, even with people that aren't around me, because there's social media and we're seeing people's best days and we're comparing them to our worst days. I think that's just an easy place for us to get stuck. And for me, I would see these pictures of confidence in other people. Like I would see like loud, outspoken, like this was my idea. This was what I thought confidence looked like. You know, those people who weren't afraid to share their perspectives and they just looked a certain way. They were well put together and their hair was perfect and they had cute clothes and they seemed to have a lot of friends and connections and just really outspoken and zero trace of doubt and zero trace of insecurity in themselves. And that's like, I would see these people and I would think, ooh, I wish I could be more like them. I wish I could have the confidence that they have. And so then, you know, what I realized is I would try and be more like somebody else. I would try and be like this picture of confidence that I saw in others, and it wasn't me. And so then there was like this contention in me because then, all right, how am I meant to be confident then? Because I'm doing all these things, but I'm not feeling confident. And that's when I really discovered like, actually, the things that I think are confidence aren't. And so my definition of true confidence is number one, that it's your ability to be able to trust yourself so that you're living into your values and you're living true to the morals that you hold close to you and that you're willing to do the things that you say that you're going to do. So that's like the first kind of foundation, I think, of true confidence. The second is your ability or being confident in your ability to be able to feel your feelings. And I'm not just talking about the good ones. I'm talking about the uncomfortable ones. I think for so many of us, we don't want to feel the uncomfortable ones. Like I said before, like the picture of confidence that I saw was like zero doubt and zero insecurity. Like when I had none of that, then I would feel confident, right? The confidence would take over the doubt and the insecurity. But really, if you're truly confident, you're still feeling insecure. You're still maybe feeling some doubt in yourself, but you're willing to feel it and not let that take over. Like confidence and some of those negative feelings can live together. And then the third foundation of confidence is just being able to know what your opinion is of yourself. Like, is the opinion that you have of yourself kind? Is that negative self-talk in your brain? What is it saying on a regular basis? And is it in line with confidence? Like, are the things you're telling yourself going to create a feeling of confidence?
So let me get this. I'm curious about number 3, and I love all of these so much. And I could go back and talk about all of them, but that know your opinion of yourself. Is it kind? Is it not? Do you think that you have to have a good opinion of yourself to be confident, or is it just knowing what your opinion about yourself is, whether it is a positive or a negative opinion about yourself? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think definitely knowing what your opinion of yourself is where it starts, because so many of us just live on autopilot, right? Like we're just walking around and the thoughts are happening and we're not really aware of them and we're feeling like garbage, right? And it's like, actually, if we take a step back and uncover those layers, it's like, if I'm constantly beating myself up, if I'm constantly comparing myself with others and shooting myself down and thinking terrible things about me on a regular basis, it's going to be really hard for me to ever feel confident.
Yeah. That is the first step, is just in that.
Yeah.
Is recognizing what your opinions about yourself are. It doesn't mean you have to go instantly to, I love myself. And I know my opinions of myself are positive, but it's just recognizing what they even are.
I explain this to my clients a lot. And I just say, you know what? The negative thoughts are going to come. We can't ever just get rid of all the negative thoughts. Like there's a place for them. There's opposition in all things, right? But are you recognizing the thoughts, and then are you choosing to believe them? Are you choosing to believe the negative thoughts your brain offers you about yourself? Or are you willing to step into, again, like who you truly are as a daughter of God? And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And remember, like, oh, wait, this actually isn't true. This isn't really who I am. This is just something that I've practiced for a really long time, believing about myself, and I can choose to redirect my brain. I don't have to choose to believe that terrible thing I'm thinking about myself.
Yeah. Because we do have a choice in that, which we often don't believe. We often don't know that we do actually have a choice, whether or not we're going to believe the things that we think about ourselves or not.
Yeah.
There's so much power in learning that principle in and of itself. Like, you don't have to believe.
Agency isn't just like choosing physical actions. Yes. It's actually, I think so much of that agency that we've been given as children of God is agency in our thoughts. Mm-hmm. Like above all else, we always have a choice in how we're going to choose to think about any circumstance.
So as children of God, let's just go there since you brought that up, but we do have inherent gifts. Like, we're born 100% worthy just because we are children of God. And we talked about this in our youth class yesterday in church. And I think it's hard for people to grasp that, but you would think that by the time that we're parents and mothers that we kind of have this figured out, but we don't, right? So what is it? Like, what's the missing piece for us when it comes to, seeing our worth and knowing that we have this gift, this beautiful thing as being children of heavenly parents?
I love that you said that, like, we should have this figured out, because I think that's one of those sneaky little thoughts that our brain offers us that really doesn't serve us, right? Like, it's kind of like, oh, now I'm a parent, I'm meant to be perfect so that I can teach it to my kids. But really, we're all learning. Like, we're all trying to, at our core, trying to become who we really are. Yep. I think. Yeah, I think it's in really understanding and remembering our true identities as daughter of God that is such an enormous source of confidence for us that we overlook. Maybe sometimes we get distracted with other things and we don't realize how much power that actually has or gives us in the moment, like our birthright to know who we are and to use that knowledge as powerful daughters of God that we are, to show up however we want to make that change in our thinking, to have that agency, to reach the goals that we want to reach. All of those things are available to us when we remember who we truly are. Like, that is our right of worthiness, of amazingness, of we all have something innate in us that the world needs. And that's why we're all so different, right? Like, we need to shine and be the light that we have been created to be. And I think we forget that so easily.
It's really easy for us there's a phrase that we often use that I actually don't love, but people are like, oh, you deserve a break, or you deserve to have this in your life. And I don't know, just a personal thing. I don't really love it. I just don't feel like we all feel like we deserve so much that we actually that we're not really entitled to. There are very few things, but that is one of them that we do deserve, is recognizing our birthright, and we deserve to live in it. We deserve all the power and blessings that come with that.
I love that so much. And it's so funny because anytime I tell myself I deserve something, it's kind of like I'm hiding at night, eating my bowl of ice cream. Like, I really deserve this after my hard day of work and hard day of mothering, right? Yeah. And it always leads to not good things. When I tell myself I deserve something, like, it's just kind of this justification for me to not live in line with my priorities, I think, is sometimes what happens there. But I love what you're saying is, like, if you're going to offer yourself that, like, you deserve something, offer this to yourself, that you deserve confidence.
Yeah.
I love it.
We do. We all deserve that. There are lots of things that I don't think we deserve in this life, but that is at the foundation. That's it. That's our birthright. And we deserve that. And I love it.
Totally agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I know that you have a great story that you like to use, an illustration of the amazing power that we have. And would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, I'm so excited to share this, actually. And I've shared it actually with my Relief Society. I can't remember when it was. A while ago, I was reading a book by Kathy Kip Clayton. Okay. It's entitled Confidence. And she shares the most amazing personal story in her book. And so basically what she says is, she was on a number of years ago on assignment for the church with her husband, and they were living in Argentina. And her son had some free time during the days, and they would often go to the zoo, the Lujan Zoo in Argentina. And she said it's unlike any other zoo she had ever been to before, because when you go there, you not only like see the lions in their pens and see the animals, but you actually get to go into the pens and you get to pet the animals. And you even get to pet the notoriously wild ones like the lions, for example. So her and her son go into the pen and they're petting the lions. And she's like kind of uncomfortable. Like, how did these trainers, what did they do to these lions to make them not eat us? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she's asking the trainers, like, what did you do? And so the trainer pulled her aside and drew her attention to several little dogs who also live in the same cage as these lions. And he said to her, when the lions were small, the yappy dogs were bigger than the lion cubs. And the dogs believed that they were in charge. And they chased the lions mercilessly. They nipped at their heels, and the baby lions became accustomed to just being afraid of these dogs. They cowered in the corner, and they just behaved afraid of these pesky little dogs. And so as the lions grew, they continued to cower in the corner and fear these small dogs, even though these dogs are tiny and these lions are huge, right? And it's so funny because these lions didn't know that just with the flick of a paw, they could send these dogs flying out of the pen, right? And I love this visual because how often do we not know or recollect or remember the power that we have? Just like those lions, we get stuck in our figurative corners. And we have our own pesky dogs that are nipping at our heels, that are keeping us small and keeping us from really remembering our divine worth and our power and what that means. And I love that story so much. And I think about, like, what are my pesky dogs? What are the things that are stopping me from really recognizing my birthright of confidence and power and shining in this world as myself and being the person that I am and being the person that God sees me as?
That is a fantastic story. And I laugh at it because I can see that we have 3 dogs, and I've got a little dog and I've got 2 big dogs. And sometimes my 2 big dogs just cower from this little dog. And I think it's hysterical. But seeing how that can play out in my own life is a great visual and a great reminder for me. I am curious how you see that play out with your clients. Like, what are their pesky dogs? What is the common things that you see?
So I think that we all have our own personal pesky dogs, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I've seen all sorts of different things, but some really common ones that I see regularly is what I've already discussed. And it's what brought me to coaching, is like this comparison trap of I'm not as good as somebody else, or I'm trying to be like somebody else, right? Which stops us from being our authentic selves. But there's also things, I think a really, really big one, which we've already kind of touched on as well, is that foundation of confidence and our opinion of ourselves. Like, if we are walking around with that negative judge in our head, offering us just unkindness on a daily basis, like, that is a dog nipping at our heels, stopping us from seeing ourselves the way that God sees us, stopping us from that royal birthright of confidence. Because it's really hard to feel confident when you're thinking things about yourself that aren't in line with confidence.
Mm-hmm. I said, cue the dogs. Did you hear my dog barking right when you were talking about that?
Right on cue.
Right on cue.
That. Yeah. No, but I think some other, like, so the negative self-talk, the comparisons, another really big one is worry. I think moms worry a lot, right? Like, we can get in these habits of worry, which is never, ever useful. And that just is so distracting from what we're actually capable of and taking action and remembering who we are. Mm-hmm. And then another one I see is mom.
An interesting one, because sorry, I'm interjecting, but I can see like when moms worry, or I've noticed in my life, my mom's kind of a worrier. Sorry, mom, if you're listening, I'm not throwing you under the bus, but my mom's kind of a worrier. And you can see sometimes how when your parents are worried, it kind of gives you like this lack of confidence that you might not be able to handle a situation too.
Yeah.
So like all of those things that we feel as parents, I think they trickle down through us, through our children, excuse me. Right. So it's something that we got to watch for many reasons, not just for ourselves, but it also has an effect on the people around us.
Well, it's just a testament to like our thoughts create our feelings, and our feelings show up in our actions. And I think sometimes we think, well, yeah, I'm worried, but nobody knows I'm worried. Right.
Yeah.
But there are like, if you're feeling worried, you are showing up differently, whether you realize it or not. And our kids can sense our worry.
Yeah.
And it does affect them. And this isn't to like shame anybody. It's just like, it's so good to be aware of that. Yeah. If you are a worrier, you actually don't have to let your worry like be nipping at your heels. Like there is a solution. You can actually allow that worry and confidence to be together. You don't have to let the worry take over.
We tend to think things have to be either or, right? If I have worry, I can't be confident in this. If I'm worried about something, I can't be confident in the situation. And we can actually have two of those emotions going on at the same time. And my mom is the best mom ever. And she loves us so much. And the worry seems to be something that just comes along for the ride with her. And she's done a really good job, I think, of allowing that worry to be there and show confidence in us and have love and space for us at the same time. But I'm not a worrier so much. So that's something that it's interesting for me to watch other people in that, because it's interesting. Some of us tend to be more of a worrier than others. So.
Yep. And that's totally okay. It's just so interesting to see like, yes, again, our pesky dogs are going to be different to somebody else's.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a couple other pesky dogs I think are super common are mom guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Mom guilt's kind of a big one.
Yes, a really big one.
Perfectionism can be in there too. Like we need everything to be perfect. Resentment.
That perfectionism is linked with the comparison a little bit. I feel like as we compare ourselves, that drives the perfectionism too, right?
Yep.
So that, okay.
Yeah. Like we want to feel good enough, right? And we need to like reach this certain standard to be there. And maybe we see that standard set in others instead of setting it in ourselves and having that be within.
And perfectionism is tricky because I think sometimes we think perfectionism comes from a place of confidence, but really perfectionism it really stems from a lack of confidence.
Right. Totally.
And once we realize that, and because I used to be much more of a perfectionist person than I am now, because I started figuring that out. Oh, this perfectionism isn't stemming from a place of confidence. This is actually coming from a place of a lack of
confidence. Totally. And I think that something that really helped me shift with my perfectionist tendencies is the fact that we actually, the point of being here on earth is not to be perfect, because we're never going to achieve that. Like we're never going to be perfect. That's why we had a savior come and suffer for us so that we didn't need to be perfect. Yeah. And it just allows me to just step back and realize, actually, the point isn't to be perfect. Like I can just let go of the perfect, because I'm meant to actually fail. I'm meant to fall short. And when I fall short and fail, and when I'm not perfect, I'm actually like moving more towards who I really am.
Yes.
Like I'm learning more from not being perfect than trying to be perfect.
Such a great point.
Yeah. Those are the main ones that I see. Of course, there's going to be, depending on the person, there's going to be
varied,
lots of different pesky dogs.
And those are just good things to be aware of, right? It's good to just be aware and recognize them in your own life. Not that you have to quick and change them, but just the awareness of them is so helpful in helping to move through them and work beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if we do want to feel more confident, if we do want some changes in our life, we can't do that blind. Like we have to actually know what's getting in the way of not being confident.
Yes.
Right. And when we're aware of that, then we're like, oh, okay, like let's start putting some of these pieces together and like taking small steps, small and simple things, great things, great things.
Like I had no idea that for me, the perfectionism was getting in my way of having more confidence, because I kind of thought that I was confident because I was always striving for it. I had a misread, I think, of what confidence was. But but when I started to be aware of it, it made a big difference.
I think actually, for me, I think arrogance a little bit plays a part here in like perfectionist. Like the more I'm good at,
yes,
the more I'm better at things than others, maybe it's like this false sense of confidence. This like, yes, I feel
then rather
confident.
than comparing yourself to other people, it's like, I admire that you said arrogance, because I think it's hard to admit that sometimes, because for me, it was like, I didn't want to compare myself to other people. I wanted other people to be comparing themselves to me.
Right. Yeah. And that is a hard thing to admit to ourselves.
It is.
Nobody wants to be pegged as arrogant.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for saying that, because for me, that was a big thing that I had to notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to this divine birthright that we all have, because we are daughters and sons of Heavenly Mother and Heavenly Father. And we have, like, they're the best examples for us in parenting. And I'm certain that you have some great parallels there for us with that. Tell me your thoughts there with our Heavenly Mother and our Heavenly Father and parenting confidence and all the things.
I think that as we work on developing the attributes of our Heavenly Father and Mother, like we realize that we are more capable of developing those when we're remembering that we are sons and daughters. Right? Like that is possible for us. I think often of the analogy of the tree, and we have a seed for a tree and we plant that seed, and in that seed is like acorns grow from that tree. Right. And I just think we are daughters of God. And so we have the possibility for those acorns. We can achieve all of those attributes that we want to, that God already has, that we're like striving to become. And actually, I don't love the word become. One of my coaches said to me once, like, what if it's not becoming? What if it's just we're uncovering who we really are, right? Like we don't need to become something that we're not. We already are that, and we're just uncovering that. I've really found though, like this year studying the the Old Testament, I've really learned so much about God and who he is. And it's really strengthened my relationship with him. And I think that that's such a great way to actually build my confidence in that he is my Heavenly Father and that I have this divine birthright for confidence, because I've learned like God is a God of love. I've seen that in those pages. He is a God of natural consequence. He is a God of agency. He is a God of second chances. And as I really internalized all of that and learned all of that, it's made me realize as a mom, I can see my kids in that way. The way that he sees me, like giving me second chances, giving me my agency, loving me no matter what, and that I am worthy of that. It helps me to realize, oh, my kids are worthy of that. Like I am worthy, like I can give that to them as well. And it's just kind of a really great shift that I've had in my own mindset of like, yes, that relationship with God has strengthened. And so as a result, I've changed a little bit in my mindset, and my kids benefit from that, because when they make mistakes, I'm not so hard on them because I'm not as hard on myself. Like it all starts with ourselves. And then we get to like benefit the other people in our lives because of that.
It's like we don't need our kids to behave a certain way to help us feel better about ourselves or our parenting. We're able to completely disconnect from that. Like we get to be confident in who we are, regardless of the choices our kids make. And for me, that was the key. I didn't have to I wasn't connected in my confidence in a mom didn't have to be connected in any way to what they did or didn't do.
Yeah. Well, that's huge, right? The things that our kids do, we will make that mean something sometimes very negative about us as a mom. Like, we're not a good mom, or we're not good enough. Like, this is a hard child. I must be doing something wrong. And it's like, no, we first just get to be confident in ourselves through that knowledge of, hey, I'm a daughter of God. And those three foundational things that we've already talked about. And then whatever our kids do, whatever things that they're learning along their way, doesn't have to mean anything about us. It's their journey and it's separate from ours.
So good. So good. Laura, I could continue this conversation all day. Is there anything before we go that we have missed that you wanted to talk about?
There's just such a really great quote that Dieter F. Uchtdorf gave recently that I want to share, because it just, again, reminds us of who we really are. And just, for me, it's a great mindset shift. Mm-hmm. But he just says, if we look at ourselves only through our mortal eyes, we may not see ourselves as good enough. But our Heavenly Father sees us as who we truly are and who we can become. And just in that is just an immense source of confidence in ourselves and in our mothering.
Yeah. Such a great reminder and so good for all of us. And I think something that never gets old. I think it doesn't matter wherever we are in our stage of mothering or parenting. Confidence is important, and we talked about this before we hit record, is like, I'm in a different phase right now, and my kids are not little, and I'm not like making those everyday decisions of how do I do this and how do I not do this, and for the little choices that they're making. But it's a different stage. Like, I have adult kids, and I'm relearning also like how to have confidence in handling the situations now versus how we're constantly relearning. Yeah. Which I love, because I love that striving for progress. But
and I think we have to realize things over and over again as we move through different stages of motherhood. There's one last thing that maybe I'll just offer to anyone who maybe wants to start feeling more confident or start becoming more confident. And I would just offer to grab a piece of paper and a pen and spend 5 minutes really becoming aware of that negative voice in your brain, or what the opinions of yourself is that you have. And it's like this unedited, like, just let yourself write out, like, what is your opinion of yourself and what is your opinion of yourself as a mom?
Yes.
And it might be kind of scary for some of us, but there is so much growth in actually knowing what's going on in your brain. And unless you know that, you can't change your opinions of yourself. It's going to be really hard for you to see yourself as your Heavenly Father does if you don't even realize how you're seeing yourself.
And I think if you're having a hard time tapping into that, even like saying, what do other people think of me? Like, what are because your brain, I know for myself, it's easier for me to say, this person thinks this about me. And so really what we think other people think about us is our opinion of ourselves. Yeah. So I think
what we're worried people are thinking about us is actually just a reflection of what we're thinking about ourselves. So that's such a great point. Like, if you're having a hard time getting started, like, what am I thinking about myself? What do I think other people are thinking about me? And that's really what's going on in our own brains. I have a really great, on my website, 7 days to confidence, like discovery prompts for confidence. So if you don't want to have to do this grunt work of like figuring out yourself, I've got great prompts to help you like get the ball rolling of like, where are you at in these 3 foundational pieces of confidence, and really realizing your right to confidence and where you're at with that, which can be really, really helpful too.
Oh, that's so good. Okay. So tell us where, we'll link to that in the show notes, but will you tell us what your website is and where people can find more of you?
Yeah. So you can find me, my website's lauradrycoaching.com. So LAURADRY. And I say that because I've had so many people think that I'm the laundry coach, which really does fit with momming. I do a lot of laundry, but it's not laundry coaching. It's Laura Dry coaching. And my favorite way to connect on social media is Instagram. So you can follow me there, find me there at Laura Dry Coaching.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And it sounds like you have a fantastic resource there too with your.
Yep. So you can grab that on the link in my profile on Instagram, or it's on my website as well.
Perfect. Laura, thank you so much. Any conversation that I get to have that involves talking about our heavenly parents and ourselves, like the person that we are, is like my favorite conversation. So
yeah, mine too. No, thanks so much for having me. This is great.
Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.